Why is it that some of the most admirable people we know leave us feeling drained, confused, or small? Could it be that their light isn't coming from within, but from the attention they draw from everyone around them? Welcome to Stillness Unfolded, the place where we bring ancient Buddhist wisdom into modern awareness. In today's video, we're diving into a powerful question, a Zen-inspired question that may seem simple at first, but when used with clarity, it has the power to cut through illusion, unmask manipulation, and, most importantly, awaken you from entanglement with someone who thrives on control and admiration. This question doesn't require conflict. It doesn't demand confrontation. It simply reveals truth. Gently, clearly, irrevocably. Throughout this video, we'll explore the subtle nature of narcissism through a Buddhist lens, why confrontation rarely works, and what does, a symbolic story that reveals the power of mindful inquiry, and how to walk away from emotional illusions with clarity and peace. So if you've ever felt confused in a relationship, unsure whether someone is truly kind or just wearing a mask, this video will bring the insight you need. Before we begin, I'd love for you to pause and give this video a like if you're already curious, and hit subscribe if you find our content meaningful. Your support helps Stillness Unfolded continue creating mindful teachings for those walking the inner path. This is a video rich in insight and subtle awareness. I invite you to stay all the way through. Sometimes, just one moment of clarity can change the way you see everything. Part 1. The shadow that dances in the light. Some people shine effortlessly, or so it seems. Their presence captivates, their words seem wise, their kindness feels divine. But in the teachings of Zen, we are reminded that not all light is born from clarity. Some shine not by their own radiance, but by reflecting the attention of others. This is the shadow of narcissism, not the everyday ego we all possess, but an identity constructed entirely on external validation. Buddhism teaches us to beware of illusion, Maya, the veil of appearances that entangles us in suffering. A narcissist is someone who builds their whole life upon that veil, fearing what lies beneath it. They do not act out of love, but out of need, a hunger for admiration, control, and significance. And this need is insatiable, like a thirsty man drinking salt water. The more they consume, the emptier they become. Their words are carefully chosen, not to connect, but to impress. Their compassion often has conditions. Their wisdom is rehearsed, not lived. To the untrained eye, they may appear enlightened, but from the lens of Zen, we see only the grasping of a mind desperate to be seen. In many ways, the narcissist is like a lantern with no fire inside. It glows brightly only when others light it with attention, praise, or obedience. But when that external fire fades, so too does their presence. Zen master Bankei once said, "People suffer because they grasp at what is not real and refuse to see what is." This is the narcissist's curse. Not only do they wear a mask, they've forgotten there's a face beneath it. Yet we must not see them as villains. Buddhism does not separate people into good and evil, but instead sees behavior as conditioned by causes and ignorance. Narcissists are not powerful, they are fragile. Their cruelty is a shield. Their charm, a survival strategy. Deep down, they are terrified of being unseen, unloved, and ultimately irrelevant. Understanding this does not excuse their behavior, but it does free you from reacting to it. When we see the shadow dancing in the light, we no longer mistake it for the flame. Part 2. Illusion as armor. In Zen practice, illusion is not something to be destroyed. It is something to be understood. And the narcissist's illusion is not merely a lie they tell others. It is a lie they tell themselves, so often and so convincingly, that it becomes their reality. A narcissist's identity is a fortress made of mirrors. From the outside, it looks vast and impenetrable, polished, powerful, admirable. But on the inside, it is hollow. There is no center. Only reflections of who they want to be, who they fear to be, and who they pretend to be. They wear charm like armor. They speak in honeyed tones. They give gifts, offer help, share wisdom, but always with invisible strings attached. Their kindness is a currency, their generosity an investment. Nothing is free, not even love. In Buddhist teachings, the ego is often described as a house built on sand. The narcissist reinforces this house constantly, defending it against even the slightest breeze of criticism or doubt. Their image must be maintained at all costs, because without it, they fear they will disappear. What makes this armor so dangerous is that it doesn't look like armor. It looks like love. It looks like leadership. It looks like enlightenment. But in truth, it is a desperate defense against the terror of being ordinary, of being unseen, unadmired, unimportant. To challenge them is to threaten their structure. Confrontation rarely leads to transformation. Instead, it often triggers aggression, blame, gaslighting. Like a frightened animal cornered, they lash out not because they are strong, but because they are afraid. So how do we navigate this illusion without becoming entangled in it? Zen does not teach us to fight fire with fire. It teaches us to bring awareness like water, cool, clear, unshaken. We do not aim to defeat the narcissist. We aim to see them. And in doing so, we free ourselves from the need to fix, prove, or please. When you recognize that their light is a reflection and not a source, you stop reaching for it. And when you stop reaching, you stop suffering. The armor only works on those who mistake it for skin. Part 3. The question that shatters illusion. Every illusion is sustained by silence. Not the peaceful silence of Zen, but the silence of unasked questions. The kind of silence that permits masks to remain unchallenged. But there is one question, gentle yet piercing, that acts like a chime of truth in a hall of echoes. What do you gain from this? This question is not an accusation. It is a mirror, and it does not need to be asked with hostility. In fact, it should not be. When spoken softly, even curiously, it becomes a subtle bell that awakens something long buried. To those grounded in honesty, it invites reflection. But to a narcissist, it causes disturbance, not because it harms them, but because it threatens the fragile illusion they have built. Unlike confrontation, which invites defense, this question invites silence. And silence is where illusion unravels. When asked at the right moment, not in rage, but in stillness, this question disrupts the performance. It throws the actor off script. There's no rehearsed answer that satisfies both their audience and their ego. If they claim they gain nothing, it rings hollow. If they admit the truth, that they crave attention, control, or praise, the illusion cracks. In Zen koan tradition, the most powerful questions are the ones that can't be answered easily, because they force the mind to stop clinging to illusion. This is such a question. It creates a space that no defense can comfortably fill. The more they talk, the more obvious the emptiness becomes. But this moment is not for them. It's for you. To see. To witness the dissonance between image and essence. Between word and motive. Between mask and mind. It is important to understand that most narcissists are not consciously deceptive. They have simply lived so long inside the performance that they've mistaken it for reality. This question doesn't only expose their illusion, it awakens your discernment. And that is where the power truly lies, not in changing them, but in changing your relationship with their illusion. A question, when asked with awareness, is not a blade, it is a bell. And the sound it makes doesn't cut, it reveals. Part 4. A story of the invisible thread. In a quiet valley wrapped in mist, there lived an old monk who never taught with books or speeches. Instead, he taught by simply being. His presence like still water, his silence more instructive than 1,000 sutras. Each morning, he sat beneath the same withered tree near the village path, where travelers often passed by. He spoke rarely, but when he did, his words always pointed inward. One autumn day, a traveler came to him, sharp-minded, weary, and searching. "Master," he said, "I've heard of a man in your village. They say he is wise, generous, loved by all. But something in me is uncertain. I do not wish to judge, only to see clearly. How can I know who he truly is?" The monk looked at him gently and replied, "When the wind is still, the surface of the lake reflects the moon. Tomorrow, speak with this man. Then ask him one question. What do you gain from this? And do not listen to his words. Listen to the silence between them." The next day, the traveler found the man. Indeed, he was captivating, eloquent in speech, generous in gesture. He spoke of charity, of service, of wisdom freely given. After a while, the traveler, remembering the monk's advice, asked, "What do you gain from all that you do?" The man paused, just a moment, but long enough for something to shift. He smiled quickly. "Nothing," he said. "I act out of love. I give without expectation." Yet behind his smile, the traveler saw something. A flicker in the eyes, a tightening of the jaw, a calculation. It was subtle, like a string pulled tight beneath silk, but it was there. The traveler bowed and thanked him. Later, he returned to the old monk and said, "He answered well, but I heard something else beneath the answer." The monk nodded. Illusion speaks with polished words. Truth does not flinch. From that day, the traveler no longer doubted what he saw. He had not exposed the man. He had exposed the illusion, not with confrontation, but with a question. And now, the invisible thread had snapped. In Zen, we do not break illusions by force. We break them by noticing. Part 5. The real purpose of the question. At first glance, the question, "What do you gain from this?" might seem to be aimed outward, toward the narcissist, the deceiver, the one who hides behind masks. But in truth, this question is a lantern we carry for ourselves. Its greatest purpose is not to expose others, but to illuminate our own inner blindness. In Buddhist philosophy, the real enemy is never the other, it is ignorance. Not seeing clearly, not knowing the true nature of things. And so, the function of this question is not confrontation, but clarity. We often think we must force the narcissist to admit their flaws, to confess their selfishness, to say, "Yes, I wanted attention," or "Yes, I used you." But this is just another form of attachment, the desire to control someone's awakening. And as the Buddha taught, no one can walk the path for another. The deeper value of the question lies in what it reveals to you, not in what it draws from them. When you ask it, you stop and see. You begin to observe patterns that were once cloaked in charisma, the smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the praise that vanishes when you stop applauding them, the help that is always public, this selflessness that feels strangely heavy with expectation. Suddenly, you are no longer entranced. You are no longer pulled into the game. Like a candle lit in a dark temple, the truth doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives in stillness. And in that stillness, the illusion starts to dissolve, not because it was attacked, but because it was seen. True Buddhist insight does not aim to destroy others. It aims to dissolve delusion. And when you see someone clearly, you no longer need to chase closure or cling to stories. You begin to detach, not with bitterness, but with understanding. The question is not a sword. It is a key, and it unlocks the door to your own awakening. Part 6. The silent victory, winning without a battle. In the teachings of Zen, the greatest warrior is not the one who defeats many, but the one who walks away untouched. Dealing with a narcissist often feels like being invited into battle, words sharpened like blades, emotions baited like traps. But every battle requires two participants. The moment you refuse to pick up the sword, the war collapses. Victory, in the Buddhist sense, is not about defeating others. It is about seeing so clearly that no deception can take root in your mind. And in this clarity, conflict becomes unnecessary. This is the silent victory, the moment you choose awareness over reaction, stillness over struggle. When the narcissist tries to provoke, you do not respond. When they praise you to reel you back in, you smile and stay rooted. When they accuse you unfairly, you remain unmoved. Not cold, not passive, but aware. Like a mountain unmoved by wind, your peace becomes your defense. And without your emotional fuel, their performance falters. In Zen, there is a saying, "The bamboo bends with the wind, but never breaks." This is the way of silent victory. You do not resist with force. You yield, not in weakness, but in wisdom. You recognize that engaging would mean entering their illusion. But your clarity now protects you. To those still trapped in emotional cycles, this can look like indifference. But true detachment is an act of deep compassion, not only for yourself, but even for the one who suffers inside their illusion. By not reacting, you deny them the drama they crave. By not needing them to change, you release yourself from their grip. And by no longer identifying as their victim, you reclaim your true identity as someone free. It may feel anticlimactic. There's no final argument, no great revelation. Just space, just quiet, just truth. And that is why this is the highest form of victory. Not loud, not celebrated, but complete. The narcissist continues their performance, but you have left the stage. Part 7. When to walk away, and how to do it wisely. Letting go is easy when there's no attachment. But what happens when the narcissist is someone you once loved or still do? A parent, a teacher, a partner, a friend, someone you trusted. Buddhism does not demand cold detachment. It offers something gentler, but more powerful: discernment. The kind that sees clearly without closing the heart. To walk away wisely is not to abandon. It is to release the illusion that your love can change someone who is not willing to see themselves. There is a difference between compassion and self-abandonment. Compassion sees suffering and responds with presence. Self-abandonment sees manipulation and calls it love. So how do we walk away with wisdom? First, we begin in silence. You don't need to announce your departure. No dramatic goodbye. No list of grievances. Leave the performance to them. You don't owe the narcissist closure. You owe yourself peace. Second, withdraw your emotional energy. Stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop overgiving. The more you explain, the more they twist. The more you give, the more they take. Like pouring water into a bottomless pot, you exhaust yourself while nourishing their illusion. Third, set boundaries, not out of anger, but out of clarity. You don't have to hate someone to stop letting them harm you. You can love them from afar. You can forgive without returning. And finally, turn inward. Ask yourself, why did I stay so long? What part of me believed I had to earn love? What wound allowed me to confuse control for care? In this reflection, you begin the real healing. Because walking away is not only a physical act, it is an energetic shift, a realignment with your own worth. As the Zen saying goes, when the bird no longer sings for the cage, the door opens by itself. You are not responsible for freeing the narcissist, but you are responsible for not keeping yourself imprisoned by hope, guilt, or fantasy. Walking away may not change them, but it changes you. And that, in the end, is what liberation means. Part 8. The power of questions that turn inward. We often seek truth in others, trying to uncover hidden motives, detect manipulation, expose deception. But in Zen, the most transformative questions are not those we ask outward, but those we ask inward. After asking the narcissist, "What do you gain from this?" we must eventually turn that same mirror toward ourselves and ask, "What do I gain from this?" At first, the answer may seem obvious: pain, confusion, exhaustion. But if we sit quietly, really sit, we may uncover deeper, more uncomfortable truths. Perhaps we stay because part of us believes love must be earned. Perhaps we fear being alone more than being controlled. Perhaps we are repeating a story we once lived as children, a story where affection came only when we performed or pleased. Perhaps we mistake chaos for passion or familiarity for connection. None of these make us weak. They make us human. But Buddhist practice invites us to meet that humanity with honesty, not judgment. When we see clearly why we stay, we also begin to see how to let go. This turning inward is not about blame. It's about awareness. We stop pointing fingers outward and start untying the knots within. And here's the hidden power. When you ask yourself that question, what do I gain from this? With full presence, you interrupt the cycle. You bring light into a place that was running on habit, on unconscious longing. In the same way a narcissist's mask begins to slip under scrutiny, our own illusions begin to soften when met with kindness and truth. This is the heart of all Zen inquiry. Not to win arguments, not to change others, but to pierce the veil of delusion and come home to what is real. The more you reflect with sincerity, the more you reclaim your energy, piece by piece. No longer scattered across old wounds, old hopes, old roles. You stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. You stop asking for love from someone who cannot offer it freely. And slowly, gently, you return to yourself. As the Buddha taught, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, a person cannot live without a center. You are that center. The question leads you back to it. Part 9. Liberation through awareness. Freedom does not always arrive like thunder. Often, it comes quietly, in a breath, a pause, a moment of sudden seeing. Not of the other, but of yourself. In the Buddhist path, liberation begins with awareness. The kind of awareness that doesn't seek to punish, prove, or possess, but simply to see clearly. And when you truly see, everything changes, not because the world shifts, but because you no longer cling to illusions. This is the final and most powerful realization of the journey. You do not need the narcissist to change for you to be free. You do not need an apology, a reckoning, or even closure. What you need is to stop expecting water from a dry well. The narcissist may continue their performance. They may still charm others, still demand attention, still rewrite the narrative. But once your eyes are open, it no longer matters. Their spell cannot hold what no longer believes in it. In Zen, we say, when the mind no longer chases shadows, the sun reveals itself. The true gift of the question, what do you gain from this, was never to change them. It was to awaken you. It was a tool to cut through the fog, to end the trance, to bring you back to the simplicity of presence. And in this presence, you realize something profound. You were never broken. You were just entangled in someone else's illusion. Now, you are free to redirect your energy, not toward judgment, but toward growth. Not toward their story, but toward your path. You stop trying to rewrite the past and begin to write the present, moment by moment. You learn to invest in those who love without conditions. You learn to sit in your own stillness without needing to be seen. You learn that peace is not something others can give or take. It is something you protect by the clarity of your awareness. Liberation is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is a quiet returning to yourself, to truth, to now. As the Zen master Rinzai taught, place no head above your own. Trust your own seeing. You have seen. Now, you are free. So in the end, the question was never really about them, was it? What do you gain from this? When asked in presence, becomes more than a tool to reveal others. It becomes a gateway to your own freedom. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to expose them. You only need to see clearly. And in that seeing, your suffering begins to dissolve. When you reclaim your energy, your attention, and your peace, you begin to walk the path of stillness. Not in coldness, but in wisdom. Not in resistance, but in truth. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me, and with yourself. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to Stillness Unfolded, and let me know in the comments what moment spoke to you the most. Your reflections help this space grow, and help others who are still lost in the fog find their way home. And remember, this teaching carries layers. Watch it again, or let it rest in you like a seed. The insight will unfold in its own time. Until next time, stay grounded, stay awake, and walk gently.